Now we will discuss issues in first language acquisition revisited. Concerning issues in first language acquisition, positions in theory making, that how different theories have emerged, and we have seen that not only the first language but in the second language, but before that we have language acquisition process itself, and we have seen in terms of the behaviorism and theories proposed or introduced by behaviorists. Then we have the nativist, also the social cultural school of thought, and how these people or these theories have contributed in the studies of language acquisition. And under that we have the first language acquisition and the second language acquisition. So how these theories were built upon these factors. Piaget's idea about children's logical thinking, and we know that it has its basis in or implications in the cognitive development. Then we have Vygotsky, who proposed that development should be seen as a result of environmental factors contribution and social interaction. And then also Chomsky, who is very clear as far as his concept of universal grammar is concerned. And also this shows that they both have different perceptions and claims with regard to the origin of language itself. Now these areas have been explored by researchers, and their views and theories have been revisited in terms of identifying certain issues, that those issues which are now looked at from the contemporary researchers, and how they have analyzed them and tried to provide explanation on language acquisition in general. So now we will look at those issues and how these issues have been revisited. We will be looking at a specific study conducted by some researchers, and they have examined these issues in detail, point-wise. So by looking at their research or the work that they have published, we will have a better insight into the issues in first language acquisition revisited. The study conducted by Lutfullah Karimi et al. In 2012 by the name of A Closer Look at First Language Acquisition, and they gave 9 major issues revisited. So issue 1, we will look at some of these issues and might not be able to cover all, but you should be able to consult this study and find out. Right now we will look at some of them, and let's see. Issue 1, which has more to do with the Chomsky's innate theory, that Chomsky's innate position seems to meet a convincing criterion for a scientific theory. It covers aspects of some other theories and possesses the properties of scientific theory and has claims for contents. Chomsky believes that both body and mind exist, and the elements needed for theory making are body, behavior, and mind. His position shares aspects from other positions, for example, epiphenomenalism, which considers mind as the side effect of an action. Issue 2, child's logical thinking. Now, Piaget supports the child's logical thinking, which is attributable to his third stage of development called concerned operational period. Piaget labels stage 3 as preparation for an achievement of concrete operations. In many ways, the period is simply preparation for the pinnacle of cognitive development, which is the operation. An operation is an internalized action that is a part of an organized structure. With the ability to use these concepts, the child's representations are no longer isolated. Rather, they are brought to life. Issue 3. The origins of language. Now, first we refer to Chomsky's position and then to that of Vygotsky. Chomsky is nativist and he argues that the ability to acquire language is innate. He also proposed the idea of LAD, which is language acquisition device, and according to him this device is unique to humans and that no other animals use language, nor can they be trained to use language. As for the egocentric speech, Vygotsky argues that speech is primarily and from the very beginning social in nature, but at first undifferentiated from a functional point of view. In other words, speech merely accompanies ongoing actions and perceptions in the context of utterance, serving as a means of social contact with others. Issue 4. Similar term used differently by Piaget and Vygotsky. Now, in terms of language development, egocentric speech, language and thought, social interaction, context dependency, and language acquisition, different terms have been used. For example, for language development, Piaget believes that language development is relatively peripheral. Vygotsky says that language development is the principal motor of development. For egocentric speech, Piaget emphasizes that egocentric speech does not provide communication, and Vygotsky believes that egocentric speech is a form of self-guidance which occurs because it has been internalized. Then language and thought. According to Piaget, language is dependent upon thought, and Vygotsky believes that language and thought are initially independent and separate, but that during childhood, thought gradually becomes more and more verbal, and that language requires and reflects thought. With regard to social interaction, context dependency, and language acquisition, for Piaget, social interactive and context-dependent properties of language are somewhat peripheral to the mechanism which set development in motion. He considers language as an abstract system of sign relation, whereas Vygotsky believes the context-dependent and social nature of language is primary in his developmental theory. His approach to language is much more consistent with some functionally or pragmatically inclined. So these are certain issues that have been revisited and have been seen from these different researchers and the originators of different school of thoughts. To conclude, first language acquisition issues have been discussed with scientific theories and different point of views on language acquisition.